Hi, I'm Emilia.
And I'm Yvonne. Together, we wrote a book on female friendships, and boy, do we have questions.
We're here to continue the conversation and help women to navigate, cultivate, and celebrate female friendships.
This is Girl Friendships. This is going to be a 3-part episode where we discuss change. In this episode, we're discussing changes in relationships, specifically relationship statuses, and what to do when change comes. We'll be discussing friendship changes such as you're single, now you're not. How do you balance your relationships? How do you feel if you're the person who is single? And how do you balance your feelings while being respectful of your friends? How do you deal with feelings of jealousy? And how do you make sure that these changes don't negatively impact you forever? Let's get into it. We used to hang out all the time, and now you're in a relationship. This person is interrupting our friendship, and I'm unhappy. Have you guys experienced that?
Definitely.
I have to think about that one. Don't go breaking my heart.
Relationships, I think, at any age, whether you're in your 20s or 30s, 40s, maybe I'm thinking like even teens, when people get into their first relationships in their 20s and their 30s, like there are a lot of significant changes that come with that. Because, you might be used to spending all of your time with your friends and living the single life and, going out and having lots of time to spend with your friend and talk to your friend. And then that changes, when you're in a significant relationship, maybe you even move in together, right? So then that changes the dynamic a little bit because, just a simple thing, even like, hey, maybe I don't want to talk to my friend when my partner is around, or, like around in the same room. Like I don't want him overhearing our conversation. So now all of a sudden I'm like more limited in when I'm calling my friend, or, but just mathematically speaking, you have less time to devote to your friendships, right? Because you need to invest in this relationship that you have. And
well, I'm going to pretend I'm the friend that you're not spending more relationship time with. So I'm over here in my corner. Like every Saturday, every weekend, we had plans. We would go out, we'd go partying, we'd go hang out, we'd do brunch together. And now I don't even see you. Like, you don't even call. What's that about?
Yeah, so it's, especially when you're kind of first getting into a relationship and then maybe it's first becoming serious, like you do need to invest more time with that person, right?
But it was us. It was us all the time.
Yeah.
I'm feeling away over here.
Yeah. And I imagine that, if you say that to someone, they'll feel very defensive initially, right?
It's not like I'm not happy for you, but like, what am I supposed to do now? We did everything together.
Yeah.
I suppose I should get over myself. Maybe I'll just go find some other friend to go hang out with but yeah, it's
tough.
I'm happy for. It's not like I'm not happy for you. I'm just sad for me.
Yeah, and it's a really tough thing for both people to go through because the person in the relationship is probably feeling guilty, whether or not you've voiced that. Maybe they're just getting a sense from you that
you guilty to me. You're not feeling no guilty. You're just radiating happiness over there, and over here I'm me all by myself.
Yeah,
Single.
Yeah, and that can really suck, right? Because you start to think to yourself, I know it's happened to me before, specifically, 5-6 years ago when I wasn't in a relationship and I was really hoping to find the love of my life and someone to spend my life with. I started to wonder, like, is this never going to happen for me, right? So, part of the feelings that you have about your friend not spending time with you could be, well, let's say I never find somebody. Does that mean that no one's going to spend time with me now because they're all going to be with their significant others and I'm going to be on my own?
So the question is, how do we carve time out for our friends when we get into another relationship? And are we talking specifically here about like a romantic relationship versus another female friendship?
I think romantic, probably closer to romantic, because I think that's the one that tends to affect us most, although not always. Not always. Has definitely been a thing where, a different friendship has taken up more time and like taken time away from another friendship. So that can happen too. But I think what it comes down to is two things. If you're the friend that's feeling hurt, you need to understand that, that your friend does need to invest in their relationship for it to move forward. And if you're feeling really upset about that, just know that it's not everything to do with like losing your friend. It could have it could be due to other questions that you're asking yourself and other fears that you have that might be coming up because your friend has met somebody and you're in a position where now you don't have your friend and you don't have a significant other.
I suppose that could be an issue because now if we used to all hang out together and do everything together, we're single together. But we were each other's backup.
Yeah.
I don't even know where in here you found time to go find somebody else, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So I am feeling the way I'm feeling because now the weekend comes or whenever time we used to spend together and I don't have my buddy. And I enjoyed spending time with you and you're just not available. And I can be happy for you, but I can be sad for me at the same time. So how do we hold those two emotions?
Yeah.
And especially when it's not even as clear-cut as that, when it's like, I'm happy for you, I'm jealous of you at the same time. I'm happy, but I'm jealous. Like, can I not be happy for you without being jealous?
Yeah, I think you can, but you kind of have to do a good job of identifying what's going on for you, right? Identify the feelings that are coming up for you, the fears that might be coming up for you, and processing those, right? And I think mistake that I've made in the past is maybe wanting the friend to solve that problem for me, like solve how I'm feeling, because I thought it had everything to do with them and their behavior versus
that put you in that situation. It was their action, right?
Exactly. And not to say that, that there couldn't be a component that my friend could do to, carve out that time, even though it's more limited, or find creative ways to stay in touch and, and invest in the friendship. So it's not to say that your friend doesn't play a part in helping you feel, important and like they still want to have that intention to invest in the friendship. But I think the mistake that I've made in the past, and I think the mistake a lot of people make is, you look to that person to solve the problem, but your feelings aren't all about that person and their actions. They're actually somewhat to do with you.
So their relationship forced you to deal with stuff about yourself and how you're feeling and whatever. So it's not the person caused it, but it's the circumstances that's happened in their life that's now made you put you back on your own resources, so to speak.
Yeah, put you back on your own resources and also put you face to face with your desires and your fears.
Okay.
Right? That maybe, when you were spending all of your time with your friend, you were able to kind of shove those under the rug because you had other things kind of fulfilling that need in your life, and you didn't have to look at that desire, to have someone like that in your life. You didn't have to look at that.
So part of it is that, but could it also be that, because I'm still trying to find a way when all of this stuff is happening, how I can, assuming I'm mature, how I can carve space. I'm very cognizant of what is happening in my life and the people in my life. Like maybe I wasn't always that way, but I think that's one of the things I got early was that, I'm in a relationship. I try to invite my friends to be as much a part of that and integrate it. And I also told my significant other at the time that, I have these friends and I invest a lot of time in them. I spend time with them. So while it won't be as much time as we used to spend before, it's a thing that I say to my significant other that there are people I'm going to have to invest some time in. And I don't know if they felt away or if they complained, but I remember just making a decision that I was going to keep in touch and we would still spend time together. So sometimes people go the other extreme. They become totally invested in the person they're in a romantic relationship with because they're just smitten and totally absorbed. And I would feel slighted if you just left me high and dry like.
Yeah. And I agree with you that I think that's the best case scenario, where, you know, you never lose that intention to continue to cultivate and maintain your friendships, right? So even though you recognize that it might have to happen differently, you might have to get more creative because you have less time to spend. It's simply divided by more priorities, right? But that is the ideal scenario, and it definitely doesn't happen for everybody. Like some people just become completely absorbed in that other person's life, and they don't know how to make time for their friendships. And
so you're basically saying what you do, you the person who is left high and dry, you need to just deal with the fact that, oh, I do want what they have. Maybe not that person because I don't even like that guy. Anyways, maybe I want some of that for myself. And sometimes when we're, I think, coexisting with I want to be happy for my friend, but I'm feeling jealous and slighted and all that stuff, we don't always know what to do with those complicated emotions.
Yeah.
And so our tendency to either lash out at the person or to withdraw friendships from the person or, you know, do the silent treatment, like I'm just not going to talk to you since you left me this way. But I hear what you're saying. It's a time to kind of process, what is it I want for myself? And I don't know, processing is a good word, but I'm still feeling the way I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm petty. I probably would blame the person because I'm just thinking, if you didn't go cheat on me and go find somebody else, I wouldn't be in this situation, because sometimes we're resentful of people for forcing us to deal with things about ourselves that we're not ready to deal with, right?
Totally. And you know, I shared some advice in another episode about, you know, how to approach this topic. And I do think it comes down to, like, if you are coming across this, if you're like, actually, no, it's not that I'm jealous or that I want a relationship of my own. I actually just want my friend to make me feel like she's still committed to me and she still wants to invest and pour into our relationship, right? And let's say, like, you've identified that that's the actual issue, then I think it's good to go to that friend and say, hey, like, I know your time is so much more limited now, and I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that you're in a romantic relationship. Here are a couple of ideas that I have for us to keep in touch and maintain our friendship, and maybe even like carve out that time. Maybe it's like a monthly date. Maybe it's something special that you do, and it's less frequent than before. You know, but really, I think the best thing to do in that situation is not to go to your friend and say, you know, like, you've completely ignored me now that you're in this relationship and all these things, and you never and you always, and like all those generalizations and dumping on that person. I think it's helpful to kind of come at it with a light heart and some creative ideas, and just showing your friend that
you're still there for them.
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest realizations that I've had in the last few years is that your friendships are bound to change. And if you cling to things the way they are at a specific time in your life, well, you're always going to be heartbroken, because, like, life is change. Life is change, friendships change, relationships change. And so you have to find a way to come back to that commitment, that intention, of what you want, without expecting it to look the same way in every season of your life and in every season of your friend's life.
I don't like change, personally. Change forces you to confront things. But of course, I mean, I don't like it, but I do my best growth during times of change when I have to be thrown back on my own resources, so to speak, and figure things out. So it is what life is going to be. But yeah, when your friend, and especially if your friendship was a dyad, when one of you goes into a significant relationship with somebody else, it's going to significantly impact how you're feeling. If your friendship is more like a triad or I think you have a quad friendship, then, you still have a couple of you who are single and can do things together.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else, do you want to comment on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation that I've had with my best friend and other friends in my life at different stages, but it stemmed from one relationship that was very close early on, and then they ended up finding someone and left another person high and dry, essentially. And it's like, while everyone was happy, you want to see that person, succeed in their relationship and things of that nature, it still feels bad because you're the one who gets left behind. And if you're already feeling like, well, I never get asked out, or I never get this, and I never have, all of those feelings can culminate into wanting to end a friendship versus like trying to talk through it as well, which is understandable because it's hard to be with someone who's Eeyore, like very sad all the time. And then you're like, I'm doing great. Everything's great. My life is great. So it's rough. And I've developed some friendships as a result of that happening to both of us at the same time, or sometimes it's just something that I've had commentary, like I think I said it during one of the discussions where me and my friends have always had an understanding that like we know how much we invest into our relationships and it takes a lot of work, especially as we become adults. And some of these friends I've known for 20 years, which is insane. But as we've gotten to an adult, we have to be intentional with spending time with each other, regardless of all of our external factors. And I always said that, like, whether or not I was in a relationship, if I'm in a relationship, and when that time comes, if you feel that we are not seeing each other in some capacity, because it might drop down from 50% of my time to 30% of my time, but if you don't feel like you're receiving about 30% hangout time, let me know. Call me up, say something, because I want to continue my friendships. They were here well before this guy got here. They're going to stay after this guy leaves if they decide to do that. But I need to have that understanding with myself that I need to make it clear to both my romantic relationships as well as my platonic ones that this is something that I'm willing to do for you. If you are willing to do that for me, that's a different story, but this is where I'm at and this is what I would expect.
That's your commitment to your friends. And then when the friend, after saying, oh, yeah, I'm with you, and then they get into a relationship and they lose your mind, because some of your friends, they lose their mind when they go into these relationships. And it's like,
baffling.
What did we have a conversation about this? Like, and they cannot see the forest for the trees in situations like that. And so, sometimes you just kind of have to say, oh, well, they've gone off the deep end. It's not going to last forever, that feeling of losing their mind. So you want to cut them some slack and let them kind of go into their deep dive. And at some point, hopefully, they'll come back to reality, right? But there are some friends, some of people I know, they got in a relationship and they lost their mind. They went completely AWOL.
Yeah. And I think that's been one of the things that's been really interesting in our discussions, Yvonne, because, you come from another part of your life. So you've had experiences and you see what's happened, for those friends that neglect their girlfriends.
You're trying to say yeah, then go there, all right? I've lived experience.
Well, you have 2 grown kids. And
you're just going to out me on the podcast like that. Here was I thinking I was coming about since young and
no, you said reciprocity too nice.
Reciprocity. We did that episode too early. No, seriously, but go home.
And I found that really interesting, you saying that sometimes people do neglect their friendships for an extended period of time, and then something happens in their life, like maybe it's a divorce. Maybe it's, maybe it's losing a family member. Maybe like something that helps you to realize that, oh, actually, it's not just my partner that I want to support me in this time. Like, it would be really helpful to, and maybe because of the circumstances, your partner can't support you. Maybe it would be really helpful.
Divorce.
It's a divorce. And so I found that really interesting, and it brought a different perspective to things, because I do think that there are some people who will completely lose themselves in that relationship, and that relationship will carry on. So it's not like they'll eventually be a breakup necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but still knowing from your experience that there could be something that happens that forces a person to rethink, the approach that they've taken.
What you said just reminded me, and at one episode, we will share again some of the really lovely feedback we got from people. But I remember one of the people who submitted responses around the question, I can't remember if we're asking about how do you maintain your relationship. She mentioned that when she became involved in a significant relationship with the person she ended up marrying, she did not know how to balance that with her friends. And I think she alluded to the fact that she didn't think her friend approved of her relationship. I don't know how she would have made that conclusion, but so she got married to the person, and years later the relationship fell apart. So a divorce happened. But she said, even though I need my friends, I didn't know how to reach out and get back into that. And I'm thinking that is sad.
Heartbreaking.
Like, don't leave your girlfriends for no guy or no whoever. Like, just don't. Like, if the friendship has run its course, it's run its course with your female friends. But, some of the romantic relationships, we hope they are going to last for a long time. But when you have a true girlfriend, like a good girlfriend who's in your corner, like, invest in that, because they'll be there for you for when the kids are born, when the husband leaves, when the relationship breaks, when there's death or whatever. That girlfriend is going to be there for you. Invest in them, because it was just so sad that this person was saying, because in essence, she was saying she'd burned the bridges.
Yeah.
She didn't know
how to rebuild it.
Maybe she didn't burn it. Maybe she just blasted it to smithereens. Nope, the pieces couldn't be found again. Yeah. But that was sad. And another person had commented that the friendship did change as she went into another relationship, but she was able to reach back out and rekindle those, and was grateful that the other friends accepted her back, and they were just waiting for her to come back to her mind. So there you go.
I actually do have a scenario for you guys that I saw on social media this week, so I'll get you guys to react to the story. It's very relevant to this. It was actually sort of the flipped version of what you just talked about, Mom. Someone spoke on Twitter about how after they got married to their husband, their best friend of 20-something years, who was their maid of honor, was there for them through everything before this wedding, ghosted them the day of.
Ghosted?
Completely disappeared and did not continue contacting them after the wedding went through. That is, I've never heard of something like that.
I know you can't see on podcasts, but this is me with stupefaction. This is what's like, what? And the person's not dead?
They're not dead. No.
How do they know you're not dead? They're dead. They're dead. They've got to be dead. I cannot have shown up.
Because the calls rang until eventually they stopped ringing. Like, the call was blocked, but she tried from other numbers. She tried from other people's phones, and it rang.
No, you mentioned a situation, I think somewhere in our discussion, about trying to be there for your friend and be happy for them as they get married and all of that stuff. I mean, of course, you had a bridezilla from hell, but that's a whole other story. But it could be, this is my speculation, that the person said, you know what, I'm going to hang in there and be happy for this person and be there with them up to and including their wedding day. And after that, I can't give anymore, because it sent them to that dark place you were talking about, and they just need to wallow in there for a while. But to complete
that's mysterious. I almost wonder if there's more to this story that we don't know. Yeah. Like, was there something with the husband? Yeah. Was there something before?
Normally,
was there
like, you hear stories where, like, the best friend of 23 years best friend of 23 years is the maid of honor, and then the bride ghosts them after, because it's like, first it's the honeymoon, then it's something else, then they have a baby, then, married life becomes married life or something like that.
Right.
It's rare that you hear of the friend being the bride that gets left behind when the other friend was not married or
The
something.
bride is the one left.
Yes, the maid of honor is the one who ghosted this time and was not the one who got ghosted, which is usually
We have
strange.
questions.
Yeah.
We need some blanks filled in. We think there's a backstory that nobody's telling, and I guess we'll never.
Backstory.
Because-
Definitely, no matter what, like there were some unvoiced concerns
For sure.
or, concerns or hurts or something. Like there was something that went unsaid.
Yeah.
There was something that went unsaid before this person got ghosted.
Because I don't know if maybe it was like maybe this maid of honor did not like the husband or there was more to the story.
Or maybe she really liked the husband.
I'm hoping friend if it wasn't that.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
We'll never know. And like we only know the person who got left behind side of things or the person who's repeating the story. And it's like from their end, it didn't seem like there was any issues. It didn't sound like she was a bridezilla or, things were a little off. And I feel bad.
But is ghosting I'm going to speculate. What would make me want to ghost somebody? Like it would have had to be some kind of deep hurt or something where I could not tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if your husband who you just got married made a pass at me or tried to make a move on me or something like that,
It would have to be deeply
and I'm
disturbing.
just like, this is disturbing to me. And what, you just married? I can't be around you two.
Yeah.
Or maybe we had a little dalliance off on the side when, you should have been kissing the bride.
Honestly, who knows? Who knows? We could speculate endlessly on this.
But I'm thinking for me to have ghosted a long-standing friend like that, it would have to be something
Really bad.
major.
Yeah.
Yeah. That had something to do with who you're in the relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Yeah.
Or it could be it's just thrown me back to a really, really dark place in my life and I can't do it anymore. I can't pretend.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm back to like invest in your friends, communicate. I know it's hard, but find, not when you're angry or upset, but find times to, one, pour into your friendships, tell people that they matter to you, tell them that you appreciate them. So that when you have to have the difficult conversations about, this happened today and this is how it made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like how that feels. So how can we, this is what I think would have helped the situation and future, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because I've poured into these people, I can have those conversations with them. You still have to tread lightly, but you can have the conversation because there's been a mutual commitment and what do you call it? Respect and all that stuff that we have shared over the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the compliment sandwich.
What's the compliment sandwich?
Well, that's basically how I have not the tough conversations, but the ones that are kind of in between with my friends.
The compliment sandwich. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard of the sandwich. Yeah.
So basically, the compliment sandwich is if you're having a difficult conversation with someone, but you still really respect them, care about them, and want them to feel heard and seen, is to give them a compliment first, to be like, hi, I really love how tenacious you are and how hard you work when we're together, for example. Then you go into whatever it is that you need to say so that you can tell them, like, I don't appreciate that you micromanage me, for example, because it makes me feel like XYZ.
So it's owning how you feel.
Yes.
Right.
And then you end off with a compliment, usually about wanting to continue to work together and build a way that we can figure out how we can work and manage our different ways of thinking, for example. So you'd say, like, the first part would be like, I really love how tenacious and hardworking you are. The second part is, I don't like that you micromanage me in my work because it makes me feel that you do not trust me in doing my own stuff. Then say, I really want to continue working together, but I need to figure out a way, or we need to figure out a way that we can both do this, that you feel able to trust me and I feel like I'm doing my job, for example.
So that works in a work relationship thing.
And it can also work with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's back to the pouring.
Because if you have those conversations, then you also make sure that when the winds of change come, you can still continue those conversations, because it's like, if I make a promise to my friends, I don't want to have my romantic relationship take over 100% of my free time. And then my friends notice that, hey, your romantic relationship is taking up 100% of your free time. I haven't seen you in 6 months. And I'm like, oh no.
But I do have a question. What if you really don't like the person your friend is in a relationship with?
For me, it's always been, I let my friend see it for themselves, because I've been in situations where I've said, I don't like this person, or I just get a gut feeling and I'm like, I don't really know why this person doesn't mesh the right way with me, but they just don't feel good. But I will listen to my friend when she talks about things, and instead of saying like, I don't think he's a good person for you, don't ever deal with him, cut him off, blah, 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 because usually that just makes them run faster into the person you want them not. You're supportive and you listen to them, and let's say, this is a person who's a serial cheater, for example. Oh, he cheated on me again. So what are you going to do about it? Because last time you checked his phone, you didn't like what you saw, and you found out that he was talking to somebody else.
First of all, it shouldn't even be at the stage in version. Be checking phone. Like, that just shows that trust is not...
You've
anyway
checked his phone again, and now he's talking to a new person, and this time on Snapchat. So what are you going to do about it this time? Because that really sucks.
Snapchat's flooding.
Smash it.
But you know what, Jess? Like, I feel like I was going to say the same thing, except you said it much more eloquently and with much more elaboration than what I was going to offer, which is...
Wait, what she's ready.
Suck it up, buttercup, and you don't like your friend. If you don't like your friend's partner... Okay, no. Allow me to elaborate. Allow me to elaborate. So 100% you do not have, you do not have a choice in who your friend decides to be with or have a relationship with. If you can, diplomatically share your concerns, like especially earlier in the relationship. And I understand that, that those red flags don't always come up early in the relationship. So you might not be able to know. But once that person is invested in the relationship, okay, how invested? Like, are we talking engaged? Because then you might still have some room to say something, right? But if your friend is wholeheartedly in that relationship, they are married to that person, I would say that bringing something up about their partner that it's not like you have different information. Like, let's say you saw somebody's husband at a club and they were like cheating on them. Okay, that's one thing. But if it's just to say, hey, I don't like this guy, I don't trust him, that conversation is not going to go well. And all it's going to do is break up your friendship. So my overall advice is, if you do see red flags and you can share them with your friend before they get overly invested, that's the best thing to do. But once they're super invested, I really don't think that there's anything that you can do or say other than to support them and be there for them and decide
when
that
Exactly. Because especially for abusive relationships, the more you're like, leave this person, they might feel more isolated from the fact that like everybody hates this man. So now I feel like I have to stay because I need to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah.
But then by being there and being supportive and always showing up and making sure that you're seen and visible to that external person in their life, they can't manipulate the situation so much in order to completely separate the friendship.
Yeah,
right.
It's tough.
I think it's one of those situations where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
You are.
Right? So if you say something, it could be completely misconstrued. You're jealous. This is the reason why you're doing this to me. You're just jealous because you don't have somebody who loves you the way da-da-da loves me. And there you go, right? Everything you said has just been misconstrued.
Yeah.
Then if you don't say anything and then it falls apart, and then, you're having a conversation with the person one day, they're going to go, well, why didn't you say anything? Like, if you say you're going to be lambasted, and if you don't,
Yeah.
And you hope somewhere in there you could at least plant a seed or just say, I'm really, you know me. I am in your corner and I want more than anything else for you to be happy. I see some areas of concern, and if you want to talk about it with me, then I'll be willing to share. Maybe that's how you say it. You give the person the opportunity. So you don't necessarily say what you feel. Just say, I see some areas of concern. if you want to talk about it. And then it's up to them. So they can say you never said, or you never at least put it out there.
And I think it's also nice to ask like questions sometimes about like, how does this person make you feel? Do they do nice things for you? How do you feel when you're around them? Because then it's not centering it necessarily on like how horrible the person is. It's more so about like bringing it back to your friend and saying, and forcing them to reflect instead. Because then you're not the bringer of bad news, for example. You're just the messenger in that one.
Right.
Yeah. And what I really do think it comes down to is this. If the person is invested enough that they're probably not going to act on anything that you say and they're going to stay with that person, then when you have voiced something that they can't forget that you said and they now know you don't like their partner, it will drive a wedge between you. And I know a woman who isolated herself from all of her friends because they all, spoke negatively about her relationship, all said that she should break up with the guy. And she completely isolated herself from any of her friends because she knew that they didn't agree with it. And at the end of the day, her decision was to be with him, right? So if you think that at the end of the day, your friend is going to be with that person, then it's probably not advisable to say very much. Once they're overly invested, because then that person will just kind of have to separate from you if they're going to continue in the relationship. And that's something that'll naturally happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like what you said, Jess, about, questions. How does a person make you feel or whatever? I remember having a conversation with you this week, and I was saying about her boyfriend, she went to do an event or activity and it was going to be late or in a sketchy neighborhood. And he ordered an Uber for her to get home safely. And I'm going, oh, that's a good boyfriend. As a mom, this is how I think my daughter is deserving of that kind of stuff. But there's somebody else who is concerned about her at that level that I would and treasures her. This is what you want to see in a relationship for your friends, right? Mm-hmm. You want to see somebody is taking the time. So ask him, how does he make you feel when you're with them? Does he do? And sometimes our friends just, maybe there's some of us who are drawn to abusive people. And, he doesn't do that, but he really loves me. And yesterday he gave me this and whatever. So they're willing to settle for the crumbs. I guess it's maybe asking yourself in your own relationships or with people you're with, are you settling for crumbs? I think you could have a full-on course meal, with the stuff that you like to eat. Don't settle for crumbs at the table. You deserve more. Yeah. But if therapy is going to take you to the point where you need to say, yes, I deserve more, then do it for the good of yourself. Life is way too short. Yeah. To be settling with crumbs when you could have good food.
Oh, totally. And I mean, that's for that person to do that work and figure it out, right? Everyone kind of has to do that work to figure out, what they want, what they don't want, and what they're willing to do to get it and what they're not willing to do, right? And it is, I just want to say, it is always very difficult if you do have a good friend and you don't feel like they're being treated well in their relationship. That's a hard thing to go through. And I also just want to acknowledge that.
And sometimes all you can do is just be there to help them pick up the pieces when it falls apart. And we're not always right about what is wrong with our friendship, our friends' relationship, because sometimes, despite all odds, we think
truth. Yeah.
They end up being really this person that we hated or whatever. You kind of go, oh, wow, he's taking good care of my friend and da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. So we're not always right. So that's why I like the question about, how does the person make you feel? How do you feel treasured? Do you feel whatever? Because those are good things for that person to reflect on, because that's how you should feel in a good relationship. Yeah. It doesn't mean you won't have fights and arguments and whatever, but overall, that should be where you land.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it, because I think the biggest thing that we've learned from this episode is that while the change is coming regardless, The relationships that we have with other people, including our romantic relationships, can significantly change things. But I think having the decent quality female friends that we have in our lives helped shape us to be able to have relationships outside of our friendships, platonic and romantic relationships, that you know that you have people that you can count on when the winds of change come. Because for those who we've touched on who've experienced relationships that they invested into and then it didn't work out, they knew that they had people to fall back on if they didn't completely isolate themselves. But the ones who did usually have to rebuild and start over again. So keep that in mind next time.
Yeah.
Something I was observing as you were talking. Did you know that when you think, you put your hair behind your ear?
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
No.
that's a thinking thing.
That's a
for
thinking thing
you.
for me.
It's the one curl. You keep rubbing it behind the ear. The one curl.
Gotta put it in place in order for my brain to work.
On that note, you've been listening to the Girl Friendships Podcast with Yvonne and
Emilia. Thanks for listening. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Leave a comment, please, to let us know your thoughts.
And come back next time for another episode of Girl Friendships.